Hi there. Welcome to Sunnyside Journals. I'm Catherine. I have a flip through today of a sweet little journal that I recently finished, and I was hoping that you'd enjoy looking through it with me. This is the first time I've ever taken a really sad looking old book and did sort of a shabby chic kind of style with it. I was feeling very inspired. I was recently sent a gift by junk journaler Donna Morgan, and she made this beautiful, gorgeous lace ring binder journal for me. I'll put the link below to the flip through. It was just so breathtaking that I wanted to sort of do a little tiny tribute to the kind of work that Donna does. This does not come close to Donna's, but in a way it's different because this one has lots and lots and lots of journaling space in it. So let's get started here with, of course, I've just been calling her Betty since it seems she arrived with a name. And in the actual story, Betty is an orphan, so she already arrived with a name when she went to live with her aunt and uncle. So this little orphan arrived to me already with her name, Betty. Betty is about 5 inches by 7.5 inches by 1.25 inches. I had to do a lot of work. Betty was really, really in sad shape, and I had to do a lot of work to get her toughened back up again, and I achieved that. And I really, really love the way she turned out. I created Betty by trying to think of what maybe a 15, 16, 17-year-old girl might have done, saving little pieces and snippets and little things that were precious to them, and sort of incorporating it into a private little book that's just for them. So that's sort of what I was thinking. A journal eventually becomes whatever the new owner has envisioned for it. So you may see something completely different here and see potential that goes on a completely different route than originally what Betty's journey was. But journeys can always take a little different change in course, can't they? So Betty Gordon at Bramble Farm was originally published in 1920. And apparently there's an entire Betty Gordon series. So this one is Betty Gordon at Bramble Farm. And I suspect this is Betty here on the front. And she is very much in a 20s kind of outfit and little hat on and her little suitcase showing up at the farm. So what I did initially was I restored the spine from the inside out, and then it needed some fortifying, so I added lace because the ends, the top and bottom, were literally starting to wear away. So I used lace and sewing to strengthen them again. Obviously, you can't replace it if the cover part was so worn it was gone, and that's where you almost start doing patchwork quilting to restore a cover that's in this condition like this. And I think that adds to the charm. So any imperfections you see in this book, yes, it could be because of age, but it also could be because I've done it on purpose and I really want it to look like it's got character. And Betty has lots of character. So you'll see right away on the front that I have added some lace snippets, some vintage buttons, some vintage ribbon here. I've created a little label for it that says journal on it. There's some an old part of a doily here and some little fabric swatches. and lace and trim down the shoulders of the spine to reinforce it. It's nice and tough now. This Betty is good for another 100 years now, I'm quite sure. And just another tiny little collage of lace and buttons up here that I think turned out really pretty, and sewing all around the edge. And I love my machine was trying to complain while it sewed around the edge, and I actually really like how that turned out. So let's take a look inside. I have put permanent laces on the side because, as ever, I kind of went a little, she's slightly overweight, just a little. That's okay. As my husband says, she carries around a war chest. So inside, you'll see it lays nicely. I've done a hidden hollow back spine, and there were 5 signatures. She has a total of 128 pages, which is great. And you'll see that there's lots and lots of journaling space. Everything in here is from repurposed sources. Although you will see scrapbook paper in here, I used a few sheets. I find my scrapbook paper from thrifted sources. So thrift stores, yard sales, garage sales. I'm sorry, I've got ink on my fingers. That sort of thing. I don't go to big box stores and buy scrapbook paper. And then I've tea-dyed it to give it a little more character. So here you'll see in the end papers, I have used vintage wrapping paper, and I've sewed around the edges, and then I used an old doily to create a pocket. This is a fussy cut lady out of a reprint of a Sears Roebuck catalog, 1908, and then I used the rest of the advertisement. So that dress was actually available for $16.75, and there's the back view in case you're interested in it. And it's a journaling card, so you can write on the back. This is actually from the original front page of the original book. This is also from the original front page of the book that lists the title and the author. And this parchment paper, you can see through it, and you can see that it was the original front page of the book. And then there I've also included the copyright date, so you can tell that your journal was originally published in 1920, so it's 100 years old. I created a little label that I imagine Betty might have typed up on the manual typewriter. This is typed on a manual typewriter. I pulled out my machine and typed it out, clunked it out. My ends stick, so I'm always a little nervous when I have to type words that have the letter N in it, because my letter N sticks and I have to pull it out and hit it again. I've created tabs for the front page of all 5 signatures, and I've used the chapter headings from the first 5 chapters from the original text block. There's lots of vintage and antique lace in this book. A little pocket here, and I imagined that Betty might have wanted somewhere to put important little papers that she hasn't glued in yet. And I've just added some tags, some vintage stationery paper, maybe a little card that she enjoyed at some point. That's from a vintage children's game. And I just tucked that in there for now. This is from a 1908 children's reader book. I loved that, so I fussy cut it out and put it up there. This looks very much 1970s to me. I'm quite sure this lace came off my first wedding gown. It wouldn't surprise me, but it's pretty. And I've tea-dyed it. This is out of a 1950s teacher's reader teaching book. I've made a tuck spot. I have been saving this for a long time. I just loved how she's watering flowers and the flowers burst out from the page. So I created a pocket out of her, and I put just a little envelope and a little note. I thought the blue looked very pretty with the blue in her dress. This is a vintage composition paper from a children's school notebook. This is from either vintage or antique traveling book. I have the cutest little traveling book. There once was a time you actually kept track of where you went and your mileage, and you would keep these in the glove compartment of your car, and it was just a really exciting journal to be able to keep of everywhere you went in your car. My dad certainly did it, and so did my father-in-law. This is just a little die cut that was in Happy Meal from my crafty crush. This is a page spread from a botanical poetry book that I have. I have just used a little rusty paper clip here to create. You can either leave it as a flip out, or you could glue it down and make it into a tuck spot. I like how this book just naturally left journaling space there, and I thought I've got to use that. So I just put that there for now with a blank tag for you to use. Little cat and turtle dancing, and a little snippet of lace. Some ladies out of a 1940s magazine that I fussy cut, and then I added some tissue paper so that page could be journaled on. Tea-dyed paper. Here's the second signature, so it says chapter 2. I hand sewed this lace onto it. You'll be able to see on the other side my stitching there. This pocket is created from vintage wallpaper, and then there's a little bit of lace down there, and I added a few little journaling things. This is actually the cover from an old little notepad, but I liked it, so I added a bit of paper, lined paper to the back so it could be journaled on. This lady is out of a book, so I put her onto some cardstock so she could be journaled on the back. She's out of a book that I actually fussy cut this line drawing out of a John Seymour book on antiques. And I just thought she looked terrific baking bread in a big stone oven, wood oven, I guess. And this is an offcut from the end papers, so that that'll look familiar to you. Nothing goes to waste. This is from a gardening journal that I tea-dyed. This is from a 1921 hymn book, and this is from a children's book. I forget the year, but it just, if you follow me and my videos, you were there the day that I found that little illustration, and it was from a story called Lady Betty the Quail. So I had to include that. I think that looks nice there. Lots of journaling space, an invoice, blank tea-dyed invoice. Page from a reprint of a Sears Roebuck catalog with ladies in their summer wraps. Again, journaling space. Here's a tuck spot that I created from part of an old doily. I love this doily. It is so beautiful. Look at the texture in that doily. And then I created sort of a large-ish cabinet card. This is actually from the Edith Holden biography called The Edwardian Lady. And this was Edith's friend, Bella. So if you're wondering who she is, she's actually Edith Holden's friend, Bella. And then I put some stationery on the back and created some space to journal on the back of Bella. I think she looks so pretty there. A paper ruffle that I made from music paper, and this paper down here is from a large print of a little golden book. It was huge, one of the special editions they put out. This is actually a page out of Edith Holden, The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. And it's the beginning of chapter 3. On this side, I have used the window from a vintage photo album that I have. It's a kind of photo album where you can put your photos in behind this glassine window. So I cut up the pages. There's 4 to a page. So I cut them up, and I love putting them. I love being able to include them in journals. I'll be sad when I run out. And I just imagined if this was Betty's book and she's an orphan, maybe she's missing somebody special in her life, her mom or her dad or whoever. So I made a little journaling card. That actually is, I believe it's a friend of Laura Ingalls Wilder, or she might even be a relative. I cut this out of I recreated it out of a book, a biography on the life of Laura Ingalls Wilder. So I forget who she is. But obviously she was important enough to Laura Ingalls Wilder that she got included in the biography. And then I add some little snippets. But you can put whoever you like in there. If there's someone you're missing, they're not even necessarily passed away. Perhaps they've moved away. Perhaps they've grown up and have their own home. Who knows? So I just created a little missing you spot. Now over here, I've sewn on an envelope from a set of stationery that I have, and I sewed it on so that the back of it is also a tuck spot. This is actually from a book that I have of black and white photos, and the book was just called Hats, and it's just it's hats in photographs. So it's people wearing hats, or else in this case it's just some hats, work hats that were hung up for the day, and I backed it so that you can journal on it, and I just thought that fit in there nicely. Now in here, I thought I took a little inspiration from my own grandmother's Bible. I actually have my great-great-grandmother's Bible. So first Margaret Mackay owned it, and she passed it on to her daughter Annie Dorsey. And Margaret passed away, and Annie, of course, inherited her mother's Bible. And then Annie Dorsey grew up and got married, and she had a very large family, and her youngest child was Lizzie. And Lizzie is my grandmother. Well, Annie passed away as well. So Annie and Lizzie had something in common. They both lost their mothers as young girls. Now, in this Bible, and unfortunately my grandmother's gone, so she can't tell me whose it was, but in my grandmother's Bible, there is a piece of, it almost looks like blanket satin ribbon, that just looks like it was special. And it's safely pinned with some little trinkets. And then there's also a piece of a dried out fern in my grandmother's Bible. So I suspect the ribbon perhaps was on a flower arrangement from a funeral and the fern was in the flowers. I'm not sure. There was also a card on it that just said mother. So it could have been from Annie Dorsey's funeral. It could have been from Margaret Mackay's funeral. I will never know until I meet them someday and I can say, all right, you guys, whose was this? I can't wait. Well, I can wait, but I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to that someday. So I just thought, you know what? I'm going to take a lesson from my great grandmothers, and I just tucked a pretty little piece of satin ribbon, a little rusted safety pin here, and a little piece of dried fern that I dried. This was actually from my Mother's Day flowers that that Dot gave me for Mother's Day. So I pressed some of those, and I think that turned out nice. You can put whatever you like in this envelope. This is just, I like to sometimes give ideas. You can do whatever you like. You can cut this ribbon up and actually use it in the journal somewhere. You can use the little charm here with the lace and the pin and put that somewhere else. This is not cast in stone. That's the beauty of a junk journal. It's purely, when I put things into my junk journals, it's purely to inspire you to grab the baton and keep going with it. I've added a little bit of a little flower. It's not a fussy cut, it's more like a fussy rip. And then a word snippet that says, like a warm comforter. This is from a calligraphy instruction book that I tea-dyed. This is from a children's 1940s reader. And then I made a fabric ruffle with the same fabric that's on the front of the cover. And you'll see it in a few places throughout this journal, this fabric. A little tea-dyed doily in the center, and then this flips out. And it actually talks about a farm, so I thought that was appropriate for Betty Gordon at Bramble Farm. Again, just lots and lots of journaling space. A belly band made with some green lace on the other side of the Edith Holden page. I didn't want to quite cover up Edith's work because it's so pretty, and those are so special to have in a journal. So I thought a belly band allows you to still see Edith's artwork. And I just tucked in an index card and just an old piece of paper out of a little binder that I found on one of my thrifting expeditions to journal on. This is chapter 4, and this is from the book, as I said. This is from a vintage gardening book on roses. I made a little pocket here from, I cut this out of a book, so it's about, they're delivering the sewing machine and desk to the house. Look how excited the family is about the new sewing machine. And then this is from a package of wedding things that I found at a thrift store. So I added this lovely young lady here, and you can journal on that. It's tea-dyed. Some tea-dyed quilting paper, quilting graph paper, ledger paper. Little tuck spot here with some lace and sewing throughout. And then some journaling cards that I created from other books that I've fussy cut. Tag, a little blank invoice that's been tea-dyed for journaling on. And then this is a really awesome gardening book that I have from the 1940s. I love that book. It has really beautiful illustrations, as you can see. I made a pocket from a vintage bias fold tape package, and then of course it's not a sunny side journal unless it has a bookmark of the two nanas. That's actually one of the nanas that owned the Bible that I was telling you about that has the mystery ribbon and fern in it that says Mother. So I'm not sure whether this is my Nana, that's Lizzie, whether she had saved it or whether her mother had saved it, because her mother died when she was young too. Fussy cut birds out of a magazine, and then I added some more. You'll see I made good use of the sheet of that stationery that has the lavender on it. I tea-dyed it, and you'll see it in several places. It's on the back of Bella's cabinet card. It's in a few little places. This is from a book that I have on the history of Ontario. So I adhered it to some paper for journaling on and made a little flip here. And then as I said, I imagined that maybe a 16 or a 17-year-old was saving some things that she just particularly loved. So these roses are from some vintage wrapping paper. And this is out of the Sears Roebuck catalog. I imagined if she was hoping to get her own sewing basket someday. I still remember getting my first sewing basket. And then on the other side is the other side of the drum. So again, there's just more journaling space on that side. And some more little things that perhaps Betty had cut out and saved. And even that, see that cellophane tape, that yellowed cellophane tape? That's the real deal. I'm one of those junk journalers that if I find cellophane tape attached to things that I've bought at secondhand stores, I carefully peel it off and save it so that I can glue it back into books and use it. So that, I don't know how old it is. It's old enough to have gone yellow. This is a genuine postcard. I'm not sure how old it is, but that yellowing is Mother Nature did that. And it's a little pony pulling a little girl's ponytail. And I thought that was appropriate for Bramble Farm. And then you can barely see, but it said, this, I can't make it out. Any hair, my hair. This is something, my hair, with love from Priscilla. So I don't know who. This was in a package of postcards that I got at an antique, a nostalgia show, and most of them were addressed to someone named Charlotte. So this was probably, Priscilla probably sent this to Charlotte. So I just thought I thought that was appropriate. I've clipped it in here. I created a lace, a sort of a movable lace tab, and I created it out of a bulldog clip, so you can move it wherever you like. And here we are at the 5th signature, chapter 5. I've created a little tuck spot using some of the offcuts from the scrapbook paper and a little area to journal on. Here's some more of that stationery page that I made good use of. This is as well. And then this is a little bookmark that I made. It was actually from a box of vintage cards. The cards were beautiful. The box was equally as beautiful as the cards, and I couldn't get rid of the box. So this was the side of the box. And I got 4 bookmarks out of that box. But I just thought it was so pretty. And that seemed like something a young lady would do back then. If there was a beautiful box in the house, that she would make good use of it. I just put a little tab up here because I thought it matched the scrapbooking paper to turn the page there. This is red wine. I tea-dyed it, and then I thought it needs a little more something something, so that's a little bit of red wine. Cabernet Sauvignon. Some pages out of a vintage gardening book. Pages out of a bird book. Ledger paper. Again, as you can see, lots of lace along all the edges in this book. I created a pocket here from a wallpaper border I have that is like Anaglypta. It's quite textured. It's actually paintable, which is what Anaglypta is. I put in a few little tuck things in there so that you can journal on the back. And then I reused the rest of the doily. So on the front here, here's the one half of the doily. And this is the other half of the doily so that it didn't go to waste. And then I just tucked in a few extra little journaling things. Some leftover of the tissue paper that I used. Onion skin paper. I think you can still see onion on there. And bridge score paper. So there you go. That is Betty Gordon at Bramble Farm. And she will be available in my Etsy shop if you're interested. I'll put the link down below and you could go over and take a look, see. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this flip through and enjoyed seeing a little bit of Betty today. Hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye.